My sister-in-law kicked my daughter's new gaming PC off the desk because she wouldn't give up her turn to her cousin. My brother backed her up, and my parents told me to stop spoiling my kids. When they realized what I'd done with the group chat and the receipts, they called me in full panic. Hey there. My kid's brand new gaming PC wasn't even 2 weeks old when my sister-in-law knocked it clean off the desk because my daughter refused to give up her turn. The tower smashed into the floor, plastic cracked, and my brother stood there nodding like his wife just taught some kind of lesson. 30 minutes later, my mother called me selfish for wasting money on expensive toys while I should focus on the whole family. Let me back up and show you how I got here. My name is Daniel. I'm 34, and I work as a senior network technician for a mid-sized logistics company. I have one daughter, Emma, who just turned 12. I also have one older brother, Marcus, who is 37 and married to a woman named Vanessa. They have 2 sons, ages 9 and 7. Our parents, Linda and Robert, are in their early 60s and recently retired from teaching. For the past 5 years, my parents loved talking about a special savings account they were building. They called it the Grandkids Fund, and they mentioned it at every birthday party, every Thanksgiving dinner, every time someone brought up college or summer camp or anything related to money and kids. They made it sound like they were setting aside huge amounts every month to give all their grandchildren equal support when the time came. What nobody outside our immediate family knew was this. I was the one putting in almost all the money. The account had been set up in my name years ago, back when Emma was a baby, and I wanted to start saving for her future. My parents convinced me to expand it into a joint effort. They said it would be smarter to pool resources, to make sure Marcus's boys and Emma all benefited equally, and to avoid any appearance of favoritism. They promised they would contribute regularly. They said Marcus and Vanessa would chip in too. I believed them. For 5 years, I set up automatic transfers every month. When I got bonuses at work, I moved chunks into that account. When my parents asked me to cover temporary gaps because their own savings were tight that month, I did it without question. I kept receipts, bank statements, and email confirmations, but I never felt the need to check the overall balance or compare contributions. I trusted my family. Meanwhile, my parents posted photos on social media showing them with Marcus's kids at the zoo, at amusement parks, at the beach. The captions always said things like spoiling our grandbabies with memories or building their future one trip at a time. People left comments calling them generous and thoughtful. Nobody asked where the money actually came from. Marcus and Vanessa never contributed more than symbolic amounts, maybe $50 or $100 twice a year. My parents deposited small sums here and there, but nowhere near what they claimed in public. I was covering rent-level amounts every single month, and they were taking credit for the whole thing. I didn't complain. I figured it was for the kids. I figured we were all in this together. Then my daughter's gaming PC got destroyed, and everything changed. Growing up, Marcus was the golden child. He played varsity football in high school. He dated the popular girls. He went to college on a partial athletic scholarship, then dropped out junior year to work in sales. Our parents never criticized him. When he struggled to find steady work in his 20s, they let him live at home rent-free for 3 years. When he finally moved out and married Vanessa, they helped with the down payment on his first house. I was the quiet one. I finished high school with honors, went to community college, transferred to a state university, graduated with a degree in information technology, and started working right away. I paid my own rent from age 19 onward. I bought my own car. I handled my own bills. Our parents were proud of me, but in a distant, automatic way. They expected me to succeed because I was responsible. When Emma was born, I was 22 and unmarried. Her mother and I had a brief relationship that ended badly. She moved across the country when Emma was 6 months old and signed over custody without much of a fight. My parents were horrified at first, worried about what people would think, but eventually they adjusted. They loved Emma. They just loved Marcus's sons more. Every family gathering followed the same pattern. Marcus's boys got the loudest cheers, the biggest presents, the longest hugs. Emma got polite attention and generic gifts. I noticed, but I didn't make a scene. I worked extra shifts, saved carefully, and made sure Emma had what she needed. I built her confidence by spending time with her, teaching her things, showing her she mattered. 2 years ago, Emma got seriously into gaming. She loved strategy games, puzzle games, story-driven adventures. She talked about wanting to learn coding, and maybe design games herself someday. She was playing on an old hand-me-down laptop that barely ran anything, but she never complained. I started researching parts. I watched YouTube tutorials. I saved for 8 months, and then I built her a custom gaming PC. It wasn't top of the line, but it was solid. It had a decent graphics card, a good processor, and enough memory to run the game she loved without crashing every 10 minutes. I installed it myself, cable managed everything, and set it up on a small desk in her bedroom. When I posted a photo online, my parents commented within an hour. My mother said something like, "That must have been expensive. I hope you're not spoiling her." My father added, "Kids need to learn the value of hard work, not just get handed things." I didn't respond. Emma was thrilled, and that was enough. At the next family dinner, my mother brought it up again. She told everyone at the table that I had spent way too much on a gaming computer for a child. She said Emma didn't need fancy electronics, and I should be putting that money toward her college fund instead. Marcus nodded along. Vanessa made a comment about how her boys were happy with shared tablets and didn't need individual expensive toys. I smiled politely and changed the subject. What I didn't say was that I had been funding their trips, their dinners, their kids' activities for years through that grandkids fund. What I didn't say was that I had receipts showing I bought the gaming consoles their boys used every single day. What I didn't say was that I was paying for the family Netflix account, the Disney Plus subscription, the Game Pass subscriptions their household relied on. I kept quiet because I thought we were family, and family doesn't keep score. Then Vanessa smashed my daughter's PC. It happened on a Saturday afternoon. My parents were hosting a barbecue at their house. Marcus and Vanessa brought their boys. I brought Emma. The plan was simple. Eat, relax, let the kids play together in the den where I had set up Emma's gaming PC temporarily so she could show her cousins a new game she loved. Emma was in the middle of a level when her younger cousin, Tyler, age 7, decided he wanted a turn. Emma told him she would finish this section and then let him play. Tyler went to his mother and complained. Vanessa walked into the den, looked at Emma, and said, "Give him the controller right now. You've been playing long enough." Emma explained she was almost done with the mission and would switch in 5 minutes. Vanessa's face hardened. She said, "You don't get to decide when my son gets his turn. You're being selfish." Emma looked at me. I was standing in the doorway. I told Vanessa that Emma had been playing for less than 20 minutes and had every right to finish what she started. Vanessa rolled her eyes and said, "Of course you're going to defend her. You spoil her so much she doesn't know how to share." Before I could respond, Vanessa stepped forward and shoved the tower off the desk with her foot. The machine hit the hardwood floor. The side panel cracked. The GPU came loose. Components rattled inside the case. Emma's screen went black. She stared at the broken machine, then looked up at me with tears starting to form. Vanessa crossed her arms and said, "Maybe now she'll learn to respect other people." I picked up the tower carefully. I checked the damage. The motherboard looked intact, but the graphics card was definitely loose, and the case was cracked in 2 places. I turned to Vanessa and said, "You're going to replace this." She laughed. She actually laughed and said, "I'm not paying for your overpriced toy. This is a teaching moment." Marcus walked in at that point. I explained what happened. I expected him to be reasonable, to at least acknowledge that his wife had crossed a line. Instead, he folded his arms and said, "Emma should have listened the first time. Vanessa was trying to teach her about fairness." I looked at my brother and said, "Fairness? Your wife just destroyed something I spent 8 months saving for because Emma wanted 5 more minutes to finish a game level." Marcus shrugged. "You shouldn't have brought it here if you didn't want the kids to use it together. You're making her selfish by giving her things like this in the first place." I could feel my chest tightening. I took Emma's hand, picked up the broken PC, and walked out to the living room where my parents were sitting with plates of food. I explained what happened. I told them I needed Vanessa to apologize and replace the machine. My mother sighed and said, "Daniel, you're overreacting. It was an accident." I said, "It wasn't an accident." She kicked it off the desk on purpose. My father set his plate down and said, "Stop making a scene. Kids break things. You need to stop spoiling your daughter and focus on teaching her to be less entitled." I stood there holding my daughter's broken computer and realized something very clearly. They were never going to take my side. They were never going to protect Emma. They were never going to acknowledge that I had been carrying this family financially while they praised Marcus and Vanessa for doing almost nothing. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just picked up Emma, carried the PC to my car, buckled her in, and drove home. On the drive, Emma asked me if she did something wrong. I told her no. I told her she handled herself perfectly, and I was proud of her. I told her we would fix the computer, and she didn't need to worry about anything. When we got home, I sat down at my kitchen table and opened my laptop. I pulled up my banking app. I looked at 5 years of statements. I pulled up the spreadsheet I used to track the grandkids' fund deposits. I pulled up email threads where my parents asked me to cover temporary gaps. I pulled up receipts for the consoles I bought for Marcus's boys. I pulled up subscription billing records. I had every single piece of evidence I needed, and I decided it was time to stop being quiet. I didn't sleep much that night. I sat in my home office with the broken PC on the floor next to me, staring at spreadsheets and bank statements. Emma had gone to bed early, exhausted from crying. I felt a cold, heavy anger settling into my chest, but it wasn't the explosive kind. It was the kind that sharpens your focus and makes you very, very calm. For 5 years, I had been the backbone of this family's financial comfort. I paid for trips they bragged about. I funded accounts they took credit for. I covered subscriptions their households used daily. I bought electronics for kids who weren't even mine. And in return, I got lectures about spoiling my daughter and making her selfish. I realized something that night. Nothing I ever did would be enough for them. I could work double shifts, sacrifice my own hobbies, fund their entire lifestyle, and they would still find a way to criticize me for not doing it with a bigger smile or for daring to spend money on my own kid. I also realized they had no idea how much power I actually held. The grandkids' fund account was in my name. Legally, it was mine. My parents had convinced me to let them manage it as a family pot, but the bank didn't care about verbal agreements. The account holder on record was me, and I could move every cent whenever I wanted. The subscriptions they relied on were all tied to my credit card. The streaming services, the game passes, the cloud storage Marcus used for his sales files, the family Spotify account, all of it ran through my payment method because I had set it up years ago and nobody ever offered to take over the billing. I had been their silent infrastructure, and they had no clue how much they depended on me. I made a decision right there at my kitchen table. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg for apologies. I was going to let the truth do all the talking, and I was going to make sure everyone saw it. I opened a new savings account in Emma's name only. I transferred the entire balance of the grandkids' fund into that account. The final total was over $43,000. I saved the closing statement as a PDF. I took screenshots of the transaction history showing my name next to almost every large deposit. Then I went through my subscriptions one by one. Netflix, Disney+, Hulu, Xbox Game Pass, PlayStation Plus, Spotify, cloud storage, VPN service. Click, click, click. Canceled, downgraded, or payment method removed. Every single thing they used that I had been quietly paying for. I saved every cancellation email. I saved every confirmation message. I organized everything into folders with clear labels and timestamps. By 3 in the morning, I had a complete digital package of evidence. I had bank statements, deposit records, email chains, receipts, subscription histories, and closing statements. I had proof of every claim I was about to make, and I had removed every single thread they were using to pull themselves up on my dime. The last thing I did before going to bed was draft a message for the family group chat. I didn't send it yet. I wanted to wait until morning, until I was completely sure, until I had checked everything one more time. But I knew I was going to send it, and I knew it was going to change everything. Sunday morning, I woke up early and made Emma pancakes. She asked if we could try to fix the PC together. I told her we would, but first I needed to take care of something important. She nodded and went back to eating. I sat down at my laptop again and reviewed everything I had prepared the night before. I double-checked the account closure statement. I verified the new education account in Emma's name was active and secure. I confirmed every subscription cancellation had gone through. I read through my drafted message for the group chat and made a few small edits to keep the tone calm and factual. Then I opened WhatsApp. Our extended family group chat had 42 members. Parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, a few close family friends who had been around forever. It was the main hub for all family communication. My parents posted constantly, photos of the grandkids, updates about their gardening projects, reminders about upcoming birthdays and holidays, and lots of humble bragging about how they were building a future for the grandbabies. I had been silent in that chat for months. I mostly just reacted with thumbs up emojis and kept scrolling. But today, I was going to make sure everyone paid attention. First, I uploaded a photo of Emma's broken gaming PC sitting on my living room floor. The cracked side panel was clearly visible. I added a short caption, what my daughter's new computer looked like after yesterday's family gathering. Silence for about 30 seconds. Then I uploaded a screenshot from a private sibling chat I had with Marcus and Vanessa. The screenshot showed a message Vanessa had sent the night before, bragging to Marcus about how she knocked that spoiled brat's overpriced toy to the ground, so Tyler could learn he comes first sometimes. More silence. Then I posted a collage of bank statements. I had highlighted my name next to deposit after deposit into the Grandkids Fund account. Dates, amounts, transaction IDs, all clearly visible. I zoomed in on specific deposits. $2,000 here, $1,500 there, $3,000 after a work bonus. Next, I posted a comparison image. On one side, a screenshot of my parents' Facebook post from last year where they talked about our special grandkids fund we've been building since day one. On the other side, the account closure statement showing my name as the sole account holder and the final balance transfer to Emma's education account. Then I posted a grid of cancellation emails. Netflix, Disney Plus, Xbox Game Pass, PlayStation Plus, Spotify Premium, cloud storage. All canceled within the last 12 hours. All time-stamped. All showing my name and email address as the account holder. Finally, I typed out a message. I kept it short and direct. For 5 years, I've been told to stop spoiling my daughter while I quietly funded this family's trips, gifts, electronics, and the grandkids fund you've all heard our parents talk about. Yesterday, my daughter's gaming PC was kicked off a desk and destroyed because she wouldn't give up her turn. My brother supported it. My parents call me selfish. So I made some changes. The account our parents have been taking credit for now belongs fully to Emma's education. Every subscription and service I've been paying for that your household's use has been canceled. Going forward, my money will support exactly one child, the one whose things you destroyed. I hit send. Then I put my phone face down on the table and walked away. The group chat exploded within minutes. My phone started buzzing nonstop. Messages poured in. My mother called me 11 times in a row. My father sent paragraph after paragraph about airing private family business and disrespecting your elders in front of the whole family. Marcus demanded I fix this misunderstanding immediately before his in-laws saw the screenshots. Vanessa sent a message insisting I was making her look like a child abuser over a minor discipline moment. I didn't answer any of it. I silenced my phone and took Emma to the park. We spent the afternoon throwing a frisbee and talking about her favorite games. She asked why I seemed more relaxed than usual. I told her sometimes you have to stop carrying weight that isn't yours to carry. By the time we got home, the group chat had over 200 new messages. Most of them were from relatives I hadn't heard from in months. My aunt from another state asked, "Wait, you paid for the Bali trip flights too? I thought your parents covered that." My uncle chimed in, "Those deposits are all from you. Why have they been saying it was their retirement savings?" A cousin I barely knew asked, "So the grandkids fund was basically just Daniel's money the whole time?" My parents' tone shifted fast. They went from angry to defensive to panicked. My mother sent a message to the group saying, "This is all a big misunderstanding. Daniel helped with the fund, but we contributed too. He's twisting things to make us look bad." I replied once, calmly. I posted bank statements, deposit records, and account ownership documents. Nothing I shared is an opinion. If anyone has questions about the numbers, they can look at the screenshots. Everything is dated and verified. Then I left the group chat entirely. Over the next few days, the fallout accelerated. Their internet service got disconnected because the auto pay I had set up years ago vanished. Marcus's boys lost access to the game library they had been using to play online with friends. Vanessa called me directly, screaming about how I was punishing innocent children for something she did. I told her the children weren't being punished. Their parents were simply experiencing what it felt like to pay for their own household expenses. Then I hung up. My parents showed up at my apartment on Tuesday evening. I didn't let them inside. I stood in the doorway and listened while my mother cried and my father tried to explain that they never meant to take advantage and that they just wanted to help manage things for everyone. I asked them a simple question. How much money did you personally deposit into the grandkids fund over the past 5 years? They stumbled. My mother said something vague about covering costs here and there. My father said, "We helped when we could." I said, "I deposited over $43,000. You deposited less than $3,000 combined. You told everyone it was your retirement savings. You lectured me about spoiling my kid while spending my money on yours. I'm done pretending that's normal." My father's face went red. He started to raise his voice, then stopped. He looked at my mother, then back at me, and said, "What do you want from us?" I said, "Nothing. I don't want apologies you don't mean. I don't want promises you won't keep. I want you to leave me and Emma alone." They left. Marcus tried a different approach. He sent me a long email explaining that Vanessa was going through a tough time and that she didn't mean to hurt Emma. He said the PC incident was blown out of proportion and that I should think about the family before making things worse. I replied with one line. The family stopped thinking about me a long time ago. Then I blocked his email. The extended family split into camps. Some relatives sent me private messages of support, saying they always suspected my parents were exaggerating their contributions. Others stayed silent, probably uncomfortable with the whole situation. A few sided with my parents, calling me disrespectful and ungrateful. I didn't engage with any of it. I had said what I needed to say, shown the evidence I needed to show, and drawn the boundaries I needed to draw. What they did with that information was their problem, not mine. Meanwhile, I focused on fixing Emma's PC. I ordered a new graphics card and a replacement case panel. I spent a weekend carefully reassembling everything, testing components, and making sure it all worked. When I powered it on and saw her desktop load perfectly, Emma hugged me so hard I almost lost my balance. She asked if we were still going to see Grandma and Grandpa. I told her not for a while. She nodded and said, "That's okay. I like it when it's just us." I realized she was right. It was better when it was just us. 3 weeks later, my parents requested a formal family meeting. They wanted Marcus, Vanessa, Emma, and me to sit down with a family counselor they had found. The counselor was someone from their church, not a licensed therapist, but they insisted this person could help us find common ground. I agreed to one meeting, but only on my terms. I told them I would bring Emma only if Vanessa apologized directly to her first, in writing, and agreed to replace the damaged components. I also said I would record the meeting for my own records, and if anyone had a problem with that, we could skip the whole thing. Vanessa sent a stiff, 2-sentence apology email to Emma. She didn't offer to replace anything. I decided that was good enough to at least show up. The meeting took place in a conference room at their church on a Saturday morning. The counselor, a woman in her 50s named Patricia, opened with a prayer and then asked everyone to share their perspective. My parents went first. They talked about how hurt they were by my public humiliation of them in the group chat. They said I had damaged their reputation in the community and made them look like liars. They admitted they could have been clearer about the fund contributions, but insisted they never intended to deceive anyone. Marcus spoke next. He said I had overreacted to the PC incident and that Vanessa was just trying to teach the kids about sharing. He said my decision to cut off financial support was vindictive and hurt the whole family. Vanessa didn't say much. She looked uncomfortable and kept glancing at her phone. Then it was my turn. I pulled out a folder. Inside were printed copies of bank statements, deposit records, email chains, and subscription histories. I slid them across the table to Patricia and said, "These are the facts. I contributed over $43,000 to an account my parents presented as their own savings. I paid for trips, electronics, and subscriptions while being told I was spoiling my daughter. When my daughter's property was destroyed and my family blamed her for being selfish, I stopped funding their lifestyle. That's not vindictive. That's called setting a boundary." Patricia looked through the documents. Her expression shifted from neutral to surprised. She looked at my parents and said, "Did you contribute to this account?" My mother hesitated. "We contributed what we could." I said, "Less than 7% of the total deposits over 5 years." My father's jaw tightened. "We were managing the account. We were coordinating with you." I said, "You were taking credit for my money and using it to make yourselves look generous while calling me a bad parent for spending my own money on my own child." Patricia set the papers down. She looked at my parents and said, "I think Daniel has a valid point. If the account was primarily funded by him and presented publicly as joint family savings, that does create a credibility issue." My mother's face went pale. My father started to argue, but Patricia held up a hand and said, "I'm not here to assign blame. I'm here to help you communicate. But I do think honesty is the foundation of any resolution." Marcus jumped in. "This isn't just about the money. This is about family. Daniel is tearing us apart over a broken computer and some bruised egos." I looked at my brother and said, "I'm not tearing anything apart. I'm stepping away from a dynamic where I do all the work and get all the criticism. You backed your wife when she destroyed my daughter's property. You called my kid selfish. You never once asked if she was okay. That tells me everything I need to know about where I stand in this family." Marcus didn't have a response. Patricia turned to Emma, who had been sitting quietly next to me the whole time. "Emma, how are you feeling about all of this?" Emma looked at me, then at Patricia, and said, "I just want my dad to be happy. He works really hard, and people are mean to him. I don't understand why." The room went silent. My mother started crying. My father stared at the table. Marcus looked away. Patricia closed her notebook and said, "I think what I'm hearing is that there's been a long-standing pattern of unequal contribution and unequal recognition, and Daniel finally reached a breaking point. I also think there's been a lack of acknowledgement for the emotional impact this has had on Emma. If you want to rebuild trust, it's going to require accountability, not defensiveness." My parents didn't say anything. I stood up, took Emma's hand, and said, "I appreciate you trying to help, Patricia, but I don't think we're going to find common ground today. I've said everything I needed to say. The boundaries I've set are staying in place. If my family wants a relationship with me or Emma in the future, they know where to find us. But it's going to be on very different terms." Then we left. In the months that followed, the family dynamics reshuffled completely. My parents never formally apologized. They sent a few awkward text messages asking how Emma was doing, but they didn't acknowledge the fun situation or the group chat incident. I responded politely, but kept my answers short. Emma saw them twice over the next 6 months, both times at neutral locations like a park or a restaurant, and both times only because Emma asked to see them. I stayed nearby, but didn't engage much. Marcus and Vanessa stopped contacting me entirely. I heard through a cousin that they were struggling financially after losing access to the subscriptions and fund money they had been relying on. Vanessa had to pick up extra shifts at her retail job. Marcus's sales numbers dropped, and he ended up taking a lower-paying position with a different company. I didn't feel bad. I didn't feel good either. I just felt neutral. The extended family mostly stayed out of it. A few aunts and uncles reached out privately to say they respected my decision and understood why I did what I did. A few others quietly unfriended me on social media. I didn't chase anyone down to explain myself. The people who mattered had already seen the evidence. Emma and I moved to a smaller, quieter neighborhood about 30 minutes away from my parents' house. I took a promotion at work that came with better hours and a significant raise. Emma joined a coding club at her school and started learning Python. She made new friends who shared her interests. She stopped asking about family gatherings. On her 13th birthday, I surprised her with a custom-built desk setup and a second monitor for her gaming rig. She cried and hugged me and said, "You're the best dad ever." I didn't need my parents' approval anymore. I didn't need Marcus's validation. I didn't need anyone from that side of the family to tell me I was doing a good job. Emma's smile was enough. I kept the receipts, the bank statements, and the screenshots in a secure folder on my computer. I didn't delete them, but I didn't look at them much either. They were there if I ever needed proof again, but mostly they were just a reminder of what I had walked away from. I learned a few things through all of this. I learned that family isn't always the people you're related to by blood. I learned that being responsible and dependable doesn't mean you have to be a doormat. I learned that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to stop explaining yourself to people who have already decided you're wrong. I also learned that my daughter was watching everything I did, and the example I set mattered more than keeping the peace. These days, my life is quieter. I work, I spend time with Emma, I invest in hobbies I had given up years ago. I have a small circle of friends who respect my boundaries and don't expect me to fund their lives. I have coworkers who value my skills and don't take me for granted. I don't talk to my parents often. When I do, it's brief and surface level. I don't talk to Marcus or Vanessa at all. Emma sees my parents occasionally, always supervised, always on my terms. I don't stop her from having a relationship with them, but I make it very clear that I'm not obligated to facilitate it or fund it. The grandkids' fun story died out. People stopped asking about it. My parents stopped mentioning it. The truth was out there for anyone who cared to look, and that was enough for me. I'm not bitter. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done. I chose myself and my daughter, and I don't regret it for a second.